Good morning. Thank you for staying with Citizen Extra. We are continuing with news shaping the day this morning, and we want to begin with Wiper and indeed NASA politics. And let's listen in to a clip by Minority Leader in Parliament and Wiper Party member Francis Nyenze on his utterances as regards the NASA flag bearer.
Anybody telling you different story that we are united, they are lying. The Kambas have reached an age whereby if it's not Kalonzo, we'll go it alone. Is that Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, the former Vice President, will not be deputy to anybody. We want ODM to honor the Memorandum of Understanding of 2013. In the absence of that, forget about NASA. NASA could be Nyanza Super Alliance. It will not be National Super Alliance, because we will not tolerate it unless that MOU is honored, and this is the bitter truth.
With me in studio, Jonathan Mweke, Deputy Governor, Nairobi County, and also a Wiper member. Also with us is Steve Mogaka. He's a constitutional lawyer and aspirant West Mugirango. And also in studio is Omingo Magara, People's Democratic Party leader and aspiring senator, Kisii County. Let's start with you, Jonathan. Following up, from that clip of Francis Nyenze there. Is Wiper staying or is it out?
Lillian, Francis Nyenze said 7 days. 7 days expired on Monday. NASA is still there with Wiper as a pillar, actually the backbone of NASA. So we are in, and no statements or personal statements from party members would ship Wiper out of NASA. Talking about
what he said, his remarks have been seen as personal and indeed even polarizing. Is there internal strife within NASA? What do you attribute to him coming out and speaking on behalf of Kalonzo?
Well, he said he was speaking on behalf of the Kamba people. And, that's what politics is about. The other day when we had the Imali declaration in Makueni, when we were bringing together all other Kamba leaders to ensure that the entire community is behind Kalonzo Musyoka, so that as we are going out to the rest of the country to look for votes, Kalonzo already has his backyard sorted. And I myself, speaking on behalf of the party, I said everybody should pull their side of the blanket. We have a big blanket that's covering the 4 principles. So Raila is pulling his side of the blanket, with Joho and Junet and Orengo saying it's only Raila who can be it. If no Raila, no NASA. And on our side, we are also telling Kalonzo to pull the blanket to his side. But what we are telling the leaders is, as you're pulling the blanket, make sure it doesn't tear. So make sure that NASA remains one united, formidable coalition. Because our goal is really just one, to get Jubilee out of power and take over the leadership of this country.
And still on you, Mweke, Kalonzo Musyoka has previously said that utterances by Francis Nyenze were in response, or rather as a reaction to Jacob Mediwo's statements. So would you say that this was perhaps a reactionary move from Francis Nyenze, one that did not involve any consultation whatsoever?
You've had several Wiper leaders, myself, Senator Mutula Jr., our Secretary General, actually, who speaks for the party, saying that Nyenze's sentiments were personal. And Nyenze is a very good standing leader of Wiper, and he represents us in the coalition of the minority leader. So he's very passionate about his leader, Kalonzo, as I am, to become president of this country. That doesn't mean there's any divisiveness. And I'll give you a good example, Lillian, about myself. Kalonzo has sent me to represent the party here in Nairobi. We have a coalition government in Nairobi already in place between myself and Dr. Kidero of ODM. So why would the same people who have a coalition government want to pull out and break the leadership they have in the capital city. It doesn't make any sense. So we are firmly inside NASA, and everybody is rooting for their person to be the presidential candidate or the flag bearer of NASA.
And still on you, the party member there, Francis Nyenze, expected to hold a press conference today. You know, this comes, of course, after the ultimatum that he issued over the announcement of a flag bearer. He says it's to give, you know, a way forward on NASA politics. Are you aware of the nature of talks there? Are you aware of what he is likely to be saying today?
Lillian, I'm hearing about this press conference for the first time now. So that tells you that there's been no consultation. And I sit in the summit. The summit is the highest decision-making organ of the Wiper Party. I'm a member of that. That's where all the very tough and hard-meaning decisions are made. And I'm not aware of that press conference. So it just tells you that it's probably not going to be describing the party position.
I want to throw this conversation over to you, Steve Mogaka, constitutional lawyer and aspirant to West Mugirango. Do you think that Mweke is being economical with the fact that he's giving us as regards Wiper and the state of affairs there and their stay in NASA?
Lillian, no, I don't think His Excellency, Deputy Governor, is being economical. Because NASA, if you look at NASA, which is a coalition of 4 prominent parties, their party leaders come in with a certain demeanor. And the Wiper party leader and the Wiper party or movement is seen as a gentle, you know, a pushover or something. That is the image they have acquired because of the demeanor of His Excellency, the party leader, Kalonzo Musyoka.
Which has since changed. His demeanor has since changed.
Exactly, which explains what Nyenze is doing. Because I think being a coalition partner with a party like ODM, which is drama everywhere, every time. I think Wiper and Honorable Kalonzo must have come, grown up and known that you really must use your thorax to get your space in this country. And coming from where Kalonzo was coming, he has completely reinvented himself, and you can see, together with his team, they have closed now. No wonder Nyenze was giving that kind of ultimatum, and they are saying, you know, it is not second fiddle all the time. And remember, Wiper realizes that without it in the NASA coalition, then this is reduced to a Western alliance. So I think the Wiper is rightly taking advantage of its centrality within NASA, because it is Wiper that gives NASA a national outlook. Short of that, they would look like is a regional outfit. So I can't agree more with Mr. Mweke that Wiper has to push its case, and this country needs, you know, a leader with a punch. Because looking at Jubilee, with the deputy president who is throwing his punches everywhere, every time, you really need to have a NASA having other pugilists who will counter her. And I'm happy with Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. He's putting his case, and he confirmed, like he did last night on Citizen TV, that he has nowhere to go. In fact, walking out for Kalonzo is suicidal. He has to stay in. But even if he stays in, of course, his other coalition partners must recognize that he has done his sacrifice. He has supported ODM candidate as presidential candidate last time. Why not claim their rightful place as a presidential candidate this time?
Omingo.
I think they will get there.
Omingo, you've previously been in a similar position with ODM, Ford Kenya, and Wiper. I want to talk about these undercurrents that we're currently seeing within NASA, and whether they're healthy for coalitions and ultimately their shared purpose.
Let me start, Lillian, by saying that I'm lucky to have interacted with most of these principals, and we work together very, very closely. And what plays out, and is always cannot be ignored, is the fact that there is no gentleman arrangement in political, understanding that can stand the test of times, and to realize and they, of course state what one brother I say that this space is not given, you grab it. It is true that the blanket is being pulled factually, and my brother Excellency Mweke said politics is local. I can't agree more. That if the Kamba people have spoken, and when the voice of people speak, that's the people, God's voice from the Kampani region. They have spoken, and I think Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka is under pressure. A gentleman par excellence, yes, but he's under pressure to deliver the Kamba community, not to a second fiddle. And now, as long as it takes, and sometimes also good to play out some political games that can give you mileage in terms of news, because sometimes, pleasant news does not necessarily feature in your stations. It must be a bit turbulent and punchy or something like that. So that anxiety they're creating as NASA is causing our focus, and I discussed with quite a number of them. In fact, we agree on some of them in the few issues, and it is not about whether they're going to hold together, is whether that blanket is knit well to a point of not tearing. But fundamentally, when you see Nyenze speaking, I mean really, and he's a senior politician, in fact senior than me, and most of these brothers sitting here, he is actually got a message. When you see Jacob Midiwo speaks, for heaven's sake, please read something out there. If Honorable Duale or Kuria speaks, you know from where he's speaking. So I don't think it is just business as usual. It is not an easy ride. It's a bumpy ground. And Brother Mweke is also a diplomat like Kalonzo. He's not want to tell you the truth. That is almost cast. Because I spoke some other time in another station that a few or two or three gentlemen in that coalition have almost their last bite. In fact, last bullet, so to say. Some of pressure of age, some pressure of consistent visibility to a point of no delivery. So to some of them, it's either today do or die. Okay. And even Kenya is also watching. So from the other side of coalition, they are watching to see how the blanket will hold. So what I'm saying here is, it is true there's pressure. How much the pressure can hold in the jar is a question of time. And on Kalonzo Musyoka's new demeanor, which has come as a surprise to many, I want to forward this question to you, Jonathan Mweke. Last night on JKL, Kalonzo said that for a long time he's been too good, quote unquote. He said something about being a cab for a long time and now having to unleash his claws because it's his time. What does this statement mean for NASA? And when he continues to say that he's still within NASA but makes utterances such as this, what does this mean?
Well, I think what the Honorable Kalonzo was saying really is, I've been a member of Parliament, I've been a deputy speaker, I've been a cabinet minister for several ministries, and I've served well. I've been a vice president of this country. Now, it's reached a point where I've gotten the experience, I've gotten the exposure, and I have the passion to be able to lead this country. That's all Kalonzo is saying. So he's telling Kenyans, he's telling the entire nation that, listen, Kenya is ripe for a Kalonzo Musyoka president. I've led in several other dockets, and now I'm ready to go for the big seat. And as my friend,
he's ready to go for the big seat. Does that then mean that he will not accept anything less than the big seat?
No, it doesn't mean that. And I think he also clarified that in JKL. He said he would support whoever gets that big seat. But in politics, you're not just given, you have to compete. And what our party leader is doing is he's competing. The other principals are doing the same thing. But Lillian, it's also important to note that this decision can only be made by the four of them. You can't have a committee making a decision on who's going to lead our coalition. You can't have politicians out in barazas on press conferences making that decision. The four principals, Raila, Kalonzo, Musalia, and Wetangula, have to sit down and agree, given the parameters, the numbers of what each brings to the table, and the good combination They're the only ones who are going to sit down and agree who's going to lead us. And I can tell you they've agreed that whoever it is, the rest are going to support, because the goal is one: form the next government.
Stephen, still on the same, Kalonzo's utterances, him saying that this is his time, and whether or not he will be then comfortable with taking a lesser seat than that of the president, and the fact that as of now, NASA seems to be running out of time, still no sign of a flag bearer. What are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts on these are that I think some of these games are very critical and politically strategic, because if NASA named its flag bearer so soon, then we will get into other challenges, and the competitors would also look for easier ways of eating into it. And I think for Kalonzo to shoot like he has started shooting is really to make the NASA boat exciting, and to keep the game interesting for the audience and the NASA followers to keep their eyes on the screen. But what is playing out is that within NASA, there are historical issues that they have to deal with away from camera, and one of those is the MOU that Kalonzo CORD entered, that let us have an ODM presidential candidate being Raila, and then Wiper becomes the running mate. And the ODM party leader is on record during the NAC regime saying President Kibaki reneged on the MOU. Will ODM be seen to be reneging the Accord MOU with Wiper? These are some of the issues that have got to be dealt with. And of course, we hear the ODM brigade saying, "Oh, we are no longer CORD, we are NASA, so let's not carry the CORD baggage into NASA." This jostling is what makes it critically important that the decision of the flag bearer for NASA should be the decision of the principals, not any other person.
It should be the decision of the principals, as you say. Are we expecting any surprises? When we look at Mudavadi and indeed Wetangula, we don't see them being as aggressive as Kalonzo and even Raila Odinga. They seem to be sitting in the back. So would we say this is a two-horse race? Are we likely to see any surprises?
Oh, certainly. It may play out as a two-horse race, but again, Mudavadi's demeanor, which has a striking semblance with that of the former Kalonzo, is what what relegates him to out of stage when it comes to a decision of the flag bearer. And if you look at CORD, which has grown into NASA, you can see that the co-drivers of CORD and the opposition have been Kalonzo Raila. And no wonder the newspaper today is trying to excite people that we have a Raila Kalonzo ticket. At the end of the day, yes, Lillian, you may look at it that it is a two-horse race. It actually is a coin. It is a two-sided coin, and CORD would rather see either Raila or Kalonzo being the flag bearer, and whoever remains. But there are others who have thought that Honorable Raila Odinga is a statesman, and he can surpass Mandela's stature if today he said, "I will be a kingmaker. I leave it to Kalonzo and any one of the other as a running mate." He will instantly become an international statesman, and that is not far-fetched, because if you listen to His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka talking of amending the Constitution to create another national position, that would be a way forward, because if you created a prime minister's position, that would cater for whichever principle that does not come in, and the Honorable Raila Odinga becomes the best candidate for that, because with Raila, if there is an MOU to be fulfilled, you can be sure it will be fulfilled. So if we had a Kalonzo, Mudavadi or Weta combination, that would still be good. And then Honorable Raila Odinga becomes an international statesman, a peacemaker, a kingmaker, and actually a Nobel candidate.
Amingo, who is the kingmaker here and who's likely to be the king? Like I had put forward to Stephen, there are two principals that seem to be very quiet and almost aloof, and two others that are aggressively out there.
I want to be a devil's advocate on this and say, in this particular context, my two brothers belong to, and I have knowledge about this, they belong to WIPA. So I want to give a fairly objective view. The person, in my view, that will give this leadership shape is none other than Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi, for two reasons. One, he is the founder member and the brainchild behind NASA, so he doesn't want the baby to, the eggs to crash in his hands. Number two, Wycliffe has got time. In fact, I don't think he's under pressure on time. He is the one who is going to shape this particular direction. And I think, as I said, I engaged with them a couple of times, and I'm very close to Wycliffe Musalia. And you can trust his word when he tells you. He is the one who can run this thing to the logical conclusion, but honestly speaking, it is really a tight thing. There's a bit of, again, betrayal, sacrifices. People have given, time is catching up with some of them. And until we have one who is going to be the biggest person to stand tall and give way, then I think the challenges are major. So I see Musalia here playing a key role in binding NASA together. And if he fails, of course I doubt that he is, because he has a chance to say, I prepared ground for you, you scored your own goal. Now 2022, I am failing myself. And that's a wonderful strategy. Time is on his side, he's crafted something that is accepted by all the opposition candidates, and you can trust him to form a king.
Right, and let's listen in to Kalonzo Musyoka's position on how best to pick a NASA flag bearer.
Let's say you are the flag bearer.
Yeah.
Who would be your ideal running mate out of the three?
We are going into a retreat to agree. Yeah? I say
You're not going to give me an answer,
any of my friends.
Any one of them?
By the way,
who would be?
Raila can be a wonderful running mate. Mudavadi can be an excellent running mate, as well as Wetangula. As long as we hold together. This is an important thing. You see, if you become a flag bearer and your colleagues are not supporting you, then you are a lame duck. Yeah. Okay? Dead before arrival or something, on arrival. Yeah?
DOA.
So it is really.
Would Raila agree to be your running mate?
You should ask him that. But I think he would.
He's watching right now.
Oh,
he's watching you.
My brother Raila has no problem with me, I believe. Or so I believe. I have no problem with him.
And also, you know, away from that retreat, Kalonzo Musyoka did later say that NASA will pick a flag bearer by the end of this month. Jonathan Mweke, I want to put this question to you. Kalonzo there saying that they will be going on a retreat to decide on the best way to pick a flag bearer. I assume this means the four principles. Where does this leave the technical committee and the role that they are essentially supposed to play?
Lillian, I mentioned earlier that that's the only way it can work. The four of them get together and they look at all their strengths. What the technical committee was supposed to do was to give them information that will enable them to make an informed decision. Each of them, for NASA to be strong, each of those four principles must bring something to the table. So they have to ask themselves, how much support do I have, and which areas of the country do I bring that support from? Because if each of them strengthens their parties, and that's why you see them going to every corner of the country individually to drum up their support. What that does, Lillian, is that it makes the entire coalition much more stronger. So that retreat is important. Indeed, what Kalonzo said is true, because we spoke to him on Monday and asked him, why don't you sit down and have this conversation so that we can move forward? And he says he has absolutely no problem with Raila Odinga. And then, of course, you saw the former Prime Minister posted on his social media pages that myself, Senator Hassan Omar, and Senator Mutula Jr. paid him a courtesy call on Tuesday. And he told us that he has absolutely no problem with Kalonzo. So the state of the coalition is good. They just need to give us direction on who it is so that we can hit the ground and ensure that we can make the inspirations of this coalition felt by every single Kenyan.
So, you know, and Stephen, Mweke there is talking about Senator Hassan Omar, and it brings to mind the ultimatum that had been put forward after the expiry of the 7 days, that the 4 principals should meet and agree. Is this what we're seeing happening here? The fact that they're now intending to go on a retreat?
Oh yes, and as I said earlier, Lillian, the NASA followers would otherwise be left bored and sleepy unless there is action going on. And everybody is impatient about getting a NASA presidential candidate, but too early selection is also very costly, as I've already said. So true, every party wants to have this question of presidential flag bearer sorted out, because then there will be realignment and reconsolidation of whatever. But as they retreat, and what this country should be concentrating on is that while we have the Jubilee coalition, it really should not matter that it is President Kenyatta who is the flag bearer and DP, the deputy president. For NASA to host Jubilee from State House, it really should not matter who is the flag bearer for NASA. And I think that gospel is almost sinking, except in certain minor sections of this country who think that if their own is not a presidential candidate, then they don't have it. Really, this should be seen as a collective movement. NASA is an an alternative national movement that should give everybody a sense of belonging, and really the retreat is welcome, and whoever they name, really to us it is driving everybody towards hosting, providing alternative government in this country.
Omingo, this is not the first time that Stephen is alluding to the fact that NASA seems to be playing to the gallery, that this is a strategy that they should not name their flag bearer too soon. But then again, August is only a couple of months away. We've seen several deadlines that have been given. August is 3 months away, and we still do not know who the presidential candidate that they will be fronting is. What are your thoughts on this?
Let me say this, Lillian, that this is not news to me. In 2007, I sat in a technical team that like the similar one that is being crafted now. And the team then, of course, they were calling us Council of Elders. That time I also became an elder by default. And we gave a fantastic proposal in terms of permutations on which combination will do better against than Kibaki. And that, was taken retreat again, as similar as it was. But when the chips were down, we saw some fallout. We hope to NASA, it will still hold learning from previous experiences. But also, it's strategic for NASA to keep Kenyans and the opponents guessing who it's going to be, for it gives them news and profile. It's also strategic. But as my brother says, Kenyans also get a little tired. I say, after all, Jubilee has had their own issues. We have exploited and told the Kenyans everything about them, and therefore the only thing they can do is to start growing. And when
so you're essentially saying they're playing to the minds of the electorate? I
think strategically, of course, and I told you, Lillian, politics is local. People, when I pull to my side, I'm exciting my local population, factually, when we don't want to sit under the umbrella or cover ourselves in the mud and say we are being nationalistic. When I'm pulling, when they're saying, what do you bring on the table? How much emotion have you created around your populace from where you come to be able to give it some shares? So it is really a strategic way of whipping emotions to move your population behind you and say, when I'm on the table, I have these numbers plus X, Y, Z equal to B. In which case, therefore, give me the ticket. So the playing to the gallery has two sides of the coin. One, keeping people excited at visibility of NASA, and two, that the fallout may be minimal. Remember, the strategy we had last time was drag it as far as possible with anybody on board, so that anybody who leaves towards the tail end is called a betrayer. It works also, but the sooner they realize that these issues are imminent, they will make the decision and start building the broken cards sooner than 2000.
Jonathan Mweke, Jubilee is scoffing at NASA, saying that as of now you still do not have a presidential candidate. Are we sure to get a NASA flag bearer end of April?
We'll get a NASA presidential flag bearer by the deadline of when IBC needs us to get one. So you're not giving us an assurance that April is indeed when this is likely to happen, end of April? Lillian, we have until the 28th of May to produce a flag bearer. What I want to assure you is we will have a flag bearer, we will have a running mate by the 28th of May. And that's why there's that deadline, so that people can have room to make their decisions and make the right decisions. So I can assure you, by the 28th of May, NASA will have a flag bearer.
28th of May would be 60 days. So that would be yet another broken promise and an even closer date to the elections.
Well, you know, people do KCPE in November. Why would you want your child to do KCPE in April?
Stephen, I'll put this question to you as well. These broken promises and you know, the deadlines that NASA has been giving you know, the electorate. We're going now towards the elections. We still do not have a flag bearer, but Kalonzo Musyoka yesterday on JKL seemed certain that indeed by the end of April they would have announced, and they would be announcing who their flag bearer would be. If this does not happen, what does this do in terms of their chances at scoring the presidency?
Fine, it may create some fatigue, but Lillian, political strategy and for NASA and indeed for any opposition to host an incumbent government needs to create an environment where they create a wave, what Honorable Raila would call a tsunami. So timelines as to when to name the flag bearer are a bit unrealistic, because you are talking about negotiations. You are not going to time negotiations and tell the world that by this day we will have agreed, because negotiations is about give and take, agreeing, disagreeing, and agreeing to agree. So while I know on camera the Wiper party leader indicated that by April, I think that is his hope, that by April NASA will have given a flag bearer.
And
in my view,
Omingo also talked about this, you know, this confusion and these delays likely to create voter apathy, because the electorate still do not know what NASA will bring on the table in as far as making lives better for them should they vote for them.
I don't agree with that, because just like Honorable Mweke said, the constitutional timeline is up to May. And if you asked me, NASA have been building constituent parties and strengthening them. The correct strategy would be now NASA consolidating themselves and doing, you know, national trips of, you know, energizing and consolidating their support base, so that at the time a presidential candidate is named by NASA, it really would not matter who it is, and the naming ceremony should electrify the nation and be able to give them the momentum that will take whoever is named to State House.
Omingo, your closing remarks on this, that at the end of the day, that whoever they name as their flag bearer, the NASA wave will have taken full effect in the minds of the electorate. Is this how you see the electorate thinking? Are electorates more concerned about what a coalition brings, or do they follow individuals?
To some extent, let me say that a day in politics is too long, but it depends on what is the finishing punch for NASA. It may dampen the expectations of the supporters, or ignite the emotions and bond them together. Remember, in every election, there's always a wow point. What is this that you're striking the people with to make sure they follow? Like leadership is that somebody who does things different from anybody else. So if they come with a wow point at the end of the day, then it may be a positive thing to delay, so that the excitement runs for a short time. But two, there are also some who cannot wait. Maybe some of them might make their decision otherwise. The other thing I'm also suggesting and advising freely, that for Jubilee government, it is not in their interest to start talking about what kind of team that is going to come from the side. In fact, they should concentrate on building their team and do their tact. So I think that is also misplaced in a sense. Let the NASA brigade nurse their own issues. As you prepare, you have to meet them whatever they bring. So that's the confidence I want us to. So let's not look like they're fearing whom they come from the other side and try to suggest who should come. So I'm saying, please, for purpose of putting a country together, passionately give IEBC their chance. Give them the confidence, because you appointed them. They have not made the inflows. That will give us an election that is credible and trusted. And for IEBC, they should also note that Kenyans are watching. They can also be shown the door the same way that has been shown. So we need peaceful elections. Kenya is bigger than Omingo.
We've been talking to gentlemen in studio, that is Jonathan Mweke, Wiper Party member and also Deputy Governor Nairobi County. Also with us in studio is Omingo Magara. He is an aspirant, senatorial aspirant, Kisii County. And also with us in studio we had Stephen Mogaka, who is a constitutional lawyer as well as an aspirant South Mugirango. We're taking a very short break now. When we come back, we talk Miraa and Uhuru Kenyatta's 1.3 billion payout to Miraa farmers. We want to talk around issues surrounding the Miraa farmer and indeed Uhuru Kenyatta's bailout to the Miraa farmer, quote-unquote bailout. We'll be back with more on Citizen Extra. Stay tuned.